Many wealthy professionals are working years longer than they need to. And the worst part is that they don't even know it. Over the last 20 years, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of retirement plans. And again, I meet people who could have retired already if only they'd understood a few critical numbers. And by the time they finally do sit down to figure it out, they've already lost years that they'll just never get back. In this video today, I'm going to show you the 5 numbers that every successful high net worth investor must track and how fixing that could buy you years of extra freedom. But before we get started, there's something important that you need to understand. Most people assume that early retirement is only a matter of just saving enough, but they haven't really thought deeply about how all the different numbers fit together. Perhaps think of it like renovating your home. My wife and I did this not long ago. We had drawings, meetings, spreadsheets, all built around certain assumptions. How long would the project take? How much would it cost? What are the different materials that we might need? This was critical because if the numbers weren't right, the entire project could potentially be derailed. And that's exactly how early retirement works. You can talk around goals, lifestyles, timelines, but unless you get these 5 key numbers right, you're building upon shaky ground. Or, in my case, living here in Dubai, building upon sand. Number 1 is how much you've already saved, and don't include your home in this number. Most people make the mistake of including their home in their retirement numbers. But your house isn't a spendable asset unless you're planning to sell it and downsize. It doesn't actually fund your future. I was speaking recently to a client who told me he had $3 million saved. But when we actually broke it down, nearly $2 million of that savings was tied up in his properties. That means that he was actually only working with $1 million of real investable assets, which isn't quite the same picture. Putting it all down for him was a real wake-up call. And your retirement plan should be based upon your investable assets, things that can actually generate income. That includes things such as pensions, ISAs, brokerage accounts, savings such as general investment accounts, and maybe shares in different businesses. Your home, now that's a lifestyle asset. It gives you a roof over your head, not future cash flow. Treating it like an income-generating investment may give you a false sense of security. So take the time to do a proper inventory of your investable net worth. Strip out your home and any other personal assets that won't be sold and focus on the money that you can actually put to work for your future retirement. Get that number really clear. It's important. If you want to make sure you're not missing anything when working out your retirement numbers, we put together a free high net worth individual retirement checklist. It covers all the different essentials that we use with our own clients, and you can download it using the link in the description below. And if you find this content useful, please like, subscribe, or comment, as it makes a massive difference as we build this channel. Number 2 is how much you spend, and try and be really honest about this. Most people either underestimate their spending or assume it's going to dramatically drop when they retire. But for high earners, that's rarely actually the case, especially in the early years when lifestyle expectations and health are still very high. I worked with one couple recently who thought that they'd only need about 60% of their current income in retirement. But when we actually went through the different numbers, their actual lifestyle, the travel, the experiences, the gifts for kids, even golf club memberships, their spending was almost identical. They weren't actually downsizing at all. They were just shifting how they spent their capital resources and their time. Spending in retirement isn't ever a flat line. It changes in different phases. There are the go-go years, the first decade or so when you're fit, active, and ticking off your bucket list. Then there are the go-slow years, less travel, more time at home, and fewer bigger ticket expenses. And finally, there are the no-go years when healthcare and support costs start to actually rise. So no, your spending won't magically drop to half just because you've left work. Take a hard look at your spending. Potentially think about breaking it down into 3 different buckets. The must-haves, such as food, housing, and insurance. The nice-to-haves, like holidays, hobbies, and entertainment, and the one-offs, like housing renovations, weddings, or gifting strategy to your children. Then map these across the 3 different stages of retirement. And that's exactly how you build a realistic plan, not one based upon wishful thinking. Number 3, Your life expectancy. Too often, people base their retirement plans on how long their parents lived. Or they'll assume that they only need to fund their lifestyle up to, say, age 85. Now, that might have worked a generation ago, but today it's a very, very risky move. I had a client tell me, the men in my family never make it past age 80. But he was in great shape, he didn't smoke, he exercised regularly, had excellent healthcare, and a wife that was much younger than him. If he planned only to age 80, she could have been left in a financial mess for at least another 20 years. We always recommend that you plan to at least age 100. Not because everyone will live that long, but because some people do. Planning to 100 gives you a cushion, and it gives you peace of mind. It also changes how you think about your spending. If your money needs to last another 35 or 40 years after retirement, you'll make much smarter decisions in your 60s and your 70s. Run your numbers all the way up to 100, and then use this as a baseline, because it's much, much better to have money left over than years left over. Number 4 is to be realistic about your future investment returns. Are you assuming that your investments will keep on delivering 8 to 10% per year just because they've always done so in the past? This is a common retirement trap. Markets are unpredictable, they don't move in neat upward curves, and expecting them to do so can set you up for a nasty surprise. I met an investor who'd done incredibly well over the last decade, but when we tested his plan using more prudent, conservative numbers, the gap was huge. Suddenly, retiring early didn't look so bulletproof. And that wasn't just adjusting one assumption. Your actual investment return is never just the headline number. Inflation, fees, and taxes all need to be taken into account to get your real returns. And timing really matters, especially in the early years of retirement when your withdrawals begin. For most high net worth individuals, planning around 4 to 6% real returns is a much safer bet. Potentially sit down with your financial life manager and ask them to run your numbers using conservative, prudent assumptions, not the rosy, best case ones that I often see used by product salespeople. Then, ask them to stress test it using their different types of software. Build in a couple of bad market years right at the start of retirement. This will give you a clearer view of the downside, and that's what can really give you the confidence and clarity to move forward well. Number 5 is inflation. Many people set their retirement income goal in today's money, but they forget to account for what that number actually buys them in 20 or 30 years' time. Inflation doesn't seem urgent right now, but over the decades in front of us, it quietly destroys your future spending power. If you were retiring at 55 now, would you feel confident that $100,000 a year would see you through? When adjusting this for inflation, that $100,000 would have a future purchasing power of roughly half, or just $50,000 by the time that you're in your 80s. Inflation is the silent killer of retirement income. Even modest inflation can chip away at what your money can do. There's a simple way to think about it that we call the rule of 72. Take 72 and divide it by the inflation rate. That tells you how many years it will take for your money to halve in value. For example, at 3% inflation, your money halves in 24 years. So if you're 60 now and plan to live to your late 80s or your 90s, $1 million today is only worth about $500,000 in real terms when you're actually going to need it. You've really got to build inflation into your plan and never assume that it's going to be fine. That means holding enough growth assets in your portfolios, like equities or the great companies of the world, in order to keep pace or exceed it. And you also need to make sure that your income strategy isn't fixed. It needs to rise over time. If your retirement income doesn't grow with inflation, your lifestyle won't keep up either. Even if your numbers are perfect, there's still one critical decision you need to get right. And if you make the wrong choice here, it could overshadow everything else, no matter how carefully you planned. So watch this video next, where I'm going to explain exactly what it is.